Hello, hello. Welcome back to Voice Notes with Ali. Today's conversation is slowing things down a little bit. I want to talk about what it really means to live in coherence, and not just when life feels amazing and blissful and beautiful, but when things get a bit messy, when they feel spicy, when they feel uncertain. Because I want to reflect on the fact that transformation isn't all beaming sunlight and expansion. Sometimes it looks like and feels like everything's falling apart. Sometimes it feels like nothing's working. But I want to talk about how that is exactly where the magic is. So this week I received a message from one of our beautiful community members, Rena, and her question captures this perfectly. And she said that she's been through something like a dark night of the soul for the last few weeks. And she's, in her words, it's been horrible. And she doubted everything and even whether to keep doing the work. But it seems to have dissolved now. And she asked, is this something that happens for some people in the program, in our community? And so the short answer to this is yes, it absolutely does. And it's not just normal. I really want to reframe it as something that's actually quite sacred. So I want to talk about what's actually happening when we hit these spicy phases and why they can be a doorway to everything that we've actually been asking for. So when we begin breathing into coherence consistently, especially when we're inside the boom room, our body and our nervous system start to change. So what we're doing is we're literally building these new neural networks. We're teaching our body that safety and ease and love are the new normal. And as that happens, everything that isn't aligned with that new state starts to surface. Anything that is not love starts to surface. So the body begins to release these old emotions, our old survival wiring, our old belief systems that no longer belong. So what we call the dark night, it isn't actually regression. What it is it's like a coming home. It's a recalibration. It's a rewiring. And it's your body finally feeling safe enough to process what it couldn't before. Now, from a science perspective, this makes complete sense, right? So your heart rhythm starts to regulate the brain, and the amygdala, that little emotional alarm center, begins to calm. And your vagus nerve strengthens and it sends those signals of safety throughout the body. And as safety grows, the subconscious opens. And everything that's been sitting in the background of your body, of your physiology, your stress hormones, the stored emotions, those protective patterns, they start to move. And it's kind of like a biological clean out. And yes, that can feel confronting and confusing and spicy. And sometimes even what feels like emotional chaos is actually your body going through a biochemical withdrawal. So if your body, and this was my body for decades, if it had been used to running on cortisol and adrenaline and the hormones of stress, that's been your baseline fuel, right? So when you start regulating, those stress hormones drop and your cells literally crave that old chemistry. And then your mind starts to look for problems or doubt to recreate those emotional and biochemical experiences. But that isn't regression. It's just your body and your nervous system and your biology adjusting to a state of neutrality and calm and even peace. So once your body learns that calm can feel safe, those biochemical cravings, those withdrawal symptoms, so to speak, they fade. And a new chemical baseline of well-being takes over. Now, our brains are like prediction machines. And what can happen is that new state of calm can actually feel really uncomfortable at first. It can feel wrong. because what happens is that the brain expects the more of the same. It expects those familiar stress signals. So when they change or when they disappear, it experiences what's known as a prediction error, and that's what they call the unknown. So that moment of doubt or disorientation, I want you to know that it's not failure. It's not something that is happening that is a negative experience. It's actually the rewiring in motion. It's neuroplasticity in motion. It's your brain updating its neural networks. It's your brain, your nervous system recalibrating who you are. And as this happens, your autonomic nervous system, that sympathetic and parasympathetic branches, they begin to rebalance. We want to have this beautiful balance between the two, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So one day you might actually feel quite wired, and then the next day you might feel completely exhausted. Now that swing between those two polarities is the body finding its rhythm again, right? It's like, think of it like your pendulum that's learning a new center. And over time, what happens is that oscillation starts to steady, and the swings become less extreme as you find that center, and you actually then move into more sustainable energy. That's where you build resilience in your nervous system. And so what you're doing is you're building a new baseline of coherence. This is how we move into a new way of being. Now, I want to make an important distinction here, right? Because we all move through contraction in life. Now, sometimes contraction is just part of being human, right? It's the natural ebb and flow of life. There's grief and change, sudden change and loss and uncertainty. That's what happens when life stretches us. And then there's another kind of contraction, the kind that arrives when you've been doing the work. And when you've been breathing into coherence consistently, when you've been showing up, when you've been regulating and doing this work, and your nervous system reaches this new level of safety, that's when a deeper layer begins to unwind. And it's not caused by external circumstances, it's caused by your own internal evolution. It's your system saying, we're ready to upgrade. We're ready for the rewiring. We're ready for the new, that new state of being. And that kind of contraction, right, that one that happens because you're expanding, is the dark night before integration. Now, it's not the same as a collapse from trauma. It's a rewiring. It's a recalibration, laying the foundation for transformation. And both kinds are sacred, right? But both are also invitations into deeper awareness. But the coherence tools that we share help you navigate the experience with trust instead of fear. Now, it was quite synchronistic when I opened my phone this morning. I saw a quote by Laura Matsu that I'm going to share now because it's so on point in what I'm talking about here. And the quote goes like this: once you bring your soul back into your body, it's not all love at first sight. You awaken first to everything you once tried to escape, suppress, or numb. A backlog of unprocessed emotions is waiting to be met with compassion and presence. This isn't a mistake. This is the path. The more gently you allow yourself to feel, the more these old energies begin to shift, and they change, and they can finally be let go of. You can't rise without first descending. The underworld is not a detour, it's an initiation. So that's exactly what this journey is. It's not a mistake, it's an initiation. And coherence brings your soul fully back into your body. You move into a greater state of wholeness. And when it does, all the energy that's been stored there finally gets to move. And it's not something to fear, it's something to actually welcome and honor with curiosity and compassion and presence. And so this is actually where our heart-brain harmony tools come in, because when you meet those sensations with coherence, breath and awareness, you become the loving witness. You step into our ability to be the observer. That's what coherence does for us. It enables us to step into the ability to be the observer, and that changes everything. Because you stop fighting the emotion and you start allowing it to move through your body to completion. That prefrontal cortex in your brain activates and your safety returns and the nervous system integrates. That's somatic healing in action. So that energy that once kept you stuck in survival becomes life force again. The creativity, the intuition, the vitality, the joy. And each time you learn to center yourself in coherence and breathe through an experience that feels like contraction in your body, you actually reclaim more of your life energy. And that's how we reimagine ourselves. Each wave that you move through creates space for your future self to land. And your future self, what is that? It's a version of you that's more loving, that's more compassionate, that's more kind, that's more attuned to abundance and ease and flow, that's more attuned to the gifts of life that are here waiting to move through you. It's the one who can hold life's fullness with more grace and more reverence and more awe and more wonder, giving and receiving in balance with an open heart. That's the gift on the other side of contraction. That's the expansion we're working towards. The dark night is the descent that allows your new light to rise. One of our community members posted recently something very wise. I'm just thinking about now that everything in nature moves through contraction and expansion. You know, the tides, the breath, the seasons, our bodies, the heartbeat itself. Coherence doesn't remove the contraction. What it does is it helps you ride it. And over time, as your baseline becomes more regulated, those waves move through you with greater ease. They don't take you out for weeks. You recover faster. You trust the process. You become more of the observer. And because you've trained your nervous system and completely rewired it and recalibrated it to know that even in the storm, it can return to calm. And you've retrained your nervous system to stay within its window of tolerance and to maintain balance between that sympathetic and parasympathetic arousal. That's the real transformation. It's not about never wobbling. It's about knowing how to come home to your center when you do. And that takes consistency and practice and repetition and community. And this is exactly why the boom room exists. Because integration doesn't happen in isolation. You know, when I worked in a clinical setting as a psychologist, the biggest gap that I saw wasn't in people's ability to heal. It was in the in-between. It was the lack of daily consistency, the support that people needed around accountability. It was the feeling that they were alone. And it was that tendency to fall back into old default patterns without ongoing daily support. And this is why we set up the boom room. It's because it bridges that gap. It's the place where you can show up exactly as you are, whether you're feeling inspired and peaceful, and whether you're feeling like a lighthouse beaming, or whether you're feeling disconnected or overwhelmed or uncertain. It's a place where you can show up either way and be held in a field of loving coherence. There's no masks, There's no fixing, just presence. As the research tells us that electromagnetic field of the heart, it extends several meters beyond the body. I mean, I think it extends more than that. That's just only how far we can measure it with the current technology. When many people breathe in coherence together, those fields synchronize and it amplifies that signal of safety. And that's why you feel so held in the boom room. Your nervous system is literally being regulated by resonance. And when we breathe together into coherence, our heart feels synchronized. The group coherence amplifies your individual coherence. And that's why people regulate faster and integrate deeper and often experience things they once thought were impossible. Because community means belonging. Belonging is medicine. And coherence multiplies when shared. And so many of our community members have moved through this crumbling and they're now thriving on the other side. Not because life got easier, but because they learned to meet their hearts and themselves and life differently. They found their rhythm. They found themselves. They found their essence. So if you ever find yourself in that dark night, when you're questioning everything, when it feels too much, when it feels spicy, remember this. You have the tools. Your breath in coherence, your heart, your awareness. You breathe a little slower, a little deeper than usual. Bring your attention into your heart and feel compassion or gratitude. And if that's difficult, even just neutrality or calm, whatever's accessible for you in that moment. And be the witness of what's happening in your body without needing to fix it. Be the observer, not the story. The story is what keeps us in those biochemical loops. Be the loving witness. That's how you turn contraction into transformation. It's how you rewire the nervous system from reaction to response, from fear to flow. Every contraction carries the possibility of becoming your next expansion. And here's the beautiful part. Every time you move through these waves consciously, you actually expand your capacity to hold more love and compassion and abundance. You become more grounded, more present, more creative, more at ease. And life starts to flow through you instead of happening to you. And then you begin to live more as your future self. Not the version that's chasing peace, but the one who is embodied peace. Not the version who's seeking love, but you become the one who's radiating it. You become that living, breathing embodiment of coherence, a walking invitation for others to remember their own. And that's the real miracle. When we regulate our nervous system, we change the field for everyone around us. For our children, our partners, our families, our workplaces, our communities, humanity. We become coherence in motion. We become the gift. And that's what this movement is about. Not just individual transformation, but collective upliftment. This is what the world needs right now. We become the gift. So yes, the dark night can be painful. It can feel disorientating. It can feel hopeless. It can feel spicy. But it's not a mistake. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not going backwards. It's the path. It's life reorganizing itself around love. It's you becoming your future self. You're just in the depths of the rewiring, the recalibration. Coherence and community helps you to hold trust while you're going through that process. You're not falling apart. You're falling into coherence. Keep breathing. Keep showing up. And let community hold you. When you start to struggle to hold yourself. And trust that expansion always follows contraction. Because every time you choose presence, you bring more light into the world. Through your energy, through your heart and your being. And that's the gift. And that's who you are. And remember, your heart is the gift the world has been waiting for. So if this conversation, if this little musing resonated with you, and you're seeking a community to walk alongside you, come breathe into coherence with us in the Boom Room. It's where this work becomes real. We do daily practice. We keep each other accountable. We have fun. There's consistency. And it's done in a loving community. We have people join our Boom Room from all over the world. And we breathe into coherence as one field, one frequency, one heart. I don't believe transformation is meant to be done alone. It's meant to be shared and witnessed and celebrated. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering who you truly are. Until next time, I invite you to stay curious and just keep coming home to your heart.